Hey YouTube, what's up? This is Ben from shouldigetit.com. Welcome to episode 8 of Shooting Cars, the show that comes out every Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, where I show you how to take better pictures of your car or your friend's car. In this video, we are going to be talking about the topic of rolling shots. So hopefully you guys can see this. This is a shot I did a couple of years back of a Jaguar F-Type V8 convertible, and here is a Mercedes-Benz C63 AMG Black Series. Rolling shots are super fun to shoot. You can do them safely. You can have a lot of fun with your friends doing these, and it makes for awesome images that honestly don't need that much editing, just a lot of time to sort through the shots. So in this video, even if you've already done rolling shots, I'm going to be telling you tips and tricks that I've learned over the past couple of years that will make your experience much easier and will help you plan in advance, because a lot of what goes into a photo shoot and getting great photos is the planning and preparation work. That's what starts it off. So let me show you a couple of rolling shots that I've done more recently, and then we can talk about what you need, some tips you can tell to your drivers, how to edit these photos, and also, of course, how to take them. So in this shot, you can see this is a Ferrari 458 Speciale that I shot, which is shot at 1/125th of a second, f10, and this was actually edited by my friend Brandon, 954mm.com. If you guys know automotive photographers, Brandon is killing it right now. He always has been, but now it's just like on another level. He did the sky swap in this and the tones, so this is what you can expect once you get pretty good at rollers and of course your post-processing. And this is kind of what you can expect to get straight out of this video. This is a shot of my friend Alex's G35, shot at 1/25th of a second at f7.1. So settings of course change depending on the lighting conditions. So what do you need? You need a DSLR with some sort of wide angle lens, so that's like an 18-55 lens. So if you have the 18-55 VR or IS from Canon or Nikon, you're pretty set there. If you're on full frame, a 16-35 is awesome, or a 24-70. That's what I shoot most of my rollers with. This Tamron 24-70. And if your lens has VR or IS or VC, which all kind of help vibration reduction, that is really important to use. So make sure you have VC, VR, or IS turned on. And of course, you're going to need a polarizer filter to put on your lens to cut down the reflections to be able to see through the windshield or the windows, depending on the angle of the car that you're shooting. You're also going to need some sort of neck strap or arm strap. So I use the black rapid strap. That's what I highly recommend. You can put it over your neck or your shoulder. That way you'll make sure that your camera, even if somehow you sneeze and let go, it will not go flying and just crush into the road. So you want to make sure that you and your camera are safe at all times. You're also going to want to take a jacket, even if you're shooting on a really warm day. It's going to be really windy.
It is so fucking windy. Sure.
You're going to get really cold, and you're going to want tissues to wipe the tears from your eyes. I promise you, once the wind starts hitting you in the face, you will start crying after about 20 seconds of shooting. Then it gets really hard to see through the viewfinder, so you want something like a jacket or tissues to wipe away your face, and then go out and shoot for another 20 to 30 seconds at a time. It is really hard to do this hanging out of a window for more than 30 seconds to a minute at a time, so keep that in mind. You are also going to want some earbuds with you to help you communicate with the driver in the other car. So what I've been doing is putting in my just regular earbuds in, just have one on the ear. The right side for the Apple earbuds is the one with the microphone, so you want to keep that one in. Make sure it's hooked up to your phone, and then have the driver of the car that you're shooting either also have earbuds in or have the call set up for Bluetooth, so that way you guys can communicate with each other with more than just hand signals. So that's what you need. DSLR that's strapped to you either onto your wrist or your neck, wide angle lens with VR preferably, and a polarizer filter. And then you're pretty much set. Of course, you need someone to drive you, and you need someone to drive the other car, so it takes at least 3 people to shoot rollers safely. Now let's talk about settings. You might think settings are just in your camera. They're not. You want to adjust the seat of the car all the way up. So you want as much room as possible to shoot through that window. So if you are shooting out of a convertible, just bring the seat all the way up and you have so much space to shoot. If you are shooting in a minivan and you're opening the middle door, you want to scoot the seat forward so that way you don't get the edge of the door in the shot. If you are shooting out of the trunk of a car, and if you're like in the back of a Yukon or an Escalade or a truck, you want to put a pillow beneath you so you get a little bit more height and you can see through the window. So make sure that you are seated correctly. Of course, if you're super tall, you're not going to need that, but make sure to adjust yourself to be comfortable so that you're not sitting in the seat like this and then stretching out over the window to shoot. You want the seat to be up so you have as much leverage and comfort as possible. Now, in terms of the cars, you want both cars to be at the exact same speed. That's how you get the effect of the road being blurred, but the cars not being blurred, because you have car A and car B moving side by side at the same exact speed, but the background is not moving, so that's why the background blurs and the other car doesn't. So I highly recommend driving the speed limit, maybe 5 miles an hour over or under it. This is going to go into your pre-planning, and you want to have both cars at the same speed. If you're doing 60 in the camera car and the other car is doing 65, they're going to pull away from you and your shots are not going to come out perfectly crisp. So you want to make sure you're doing the same speed. I'd say within a mile or two, you'll be okay. But if you're doing the exact same speed, that's when you're going to get the super sharp shots. Now, you want to set your polarizer and your f-stop and your whole exposure pretty much before you start driving in live view. Of course, you can do this in the car when you're actually on the road. This is what happens when you need to shoot a rally. You don't really have time to prep beforehand, but you want to set your ISO, aperture, and shutter speed before, and you want your shutter speed to be about the speed that you're doing. So if you're doing 60 miles an hour, you should be shooting 1/60th, 30 miles an hour, 1/30th. You know, if you're doing 100 miles an hour, shoot at 1/100th, 1/160th, 1/200th. The faster you're going, the faster you want your shutter speed, because it's going to have to compensate for the shaking of the camera. So try different settings. You know, you don't want to do a whole shoot at the same shutter speed, because you might go home and think, oh, 1/30th was way too slow. I should have been at a 60th. So shoot a couple at a 30th, go to 60th, shoot a couple there, go to 100th, go to 200th. Sometimes I've shot rollers at 1/250th of a second. You also want to set your camera to autofocus continuous. So there are different autofocus settings for every single different DSLR. Look it up, Google or YouTube search how to put your camera into AF-C. That's autofocus continuous, or I think it's AF-I on Canon for the autofocus servo. You want it to be continuing instead of for single shot. You also want to set your camera into burst mode, so that instead of when you click the shutter it just takes one shot, you want it to go. So you want it to keep shooting and take as many frames as you can. So you also want a fast memory card for that. And if you want to put your camera into bracketing mode, that'll definitely help you out, because then you'll be able to just hold it down and it'll shoot 1/30th, 1/60th, 1/20th, and it'll just keep going in this loop by 1 stop or 2 stops or 3 stops or 5 stops or whatever you set your camera to. So if you have questions about these settings, send me a DM on Instagram at @acarphotographer, but these are really important things to note that are going to help you get set up. Now let's talk about tips for your drivers. So going along with preparation, again, you want to plan out your route. So I, depending on the location, do a pretty typical route. We go on the highway, we go for 2 or 3 exits, we get off, we loop back to the original spot where we got on, and we'll do a couple laps like that. So you want to get that routed so it doesn't end up that, one person takes the wrong exit and then they end up 5 miles away from you and it just kills a bunch of time on your shoot. The second thing is you want to plan the shots. So usually what I do is a shot of the front of the car from a high angle, from a low angle, then side by side of the car like this, and then I get the rear. So this is the camera car, this is the car I'm shooting, so I'll have it go in front and hold like this, and then I'll shoot the rear from up high and then from down low. And you can see that here. This is Guy with the Camera 415 shooting various cars. You can see that he directs them with hand motions. So you want to talk to the person before you start shooting. In case you don't have a cell phone hooked up to be on a call or walkie-talkies, you want to give them hand motions. So usually wave in to tell them to come closer, hold so that they know to hold that distance and that speed, and then if you want to move them forward, wave them by and point where you want them. If you're doing a shoot with multiple cars, what I recommend is doing on the hand motions, and then when you're done, look at your camera, give the driver a thumbs up, and tell them to go so that the next car can come up and you can do a shoot. Sometimes I've been on rallies where I've had to do 20 or 30 cars rolling shots all on the same highway. It's a pretty long trip, so you want to give a thumbs up and let the next driver go. So discuss those hand motions with as many of the drivers as you can before you start shooting, and hold a 1-lane gap with the cars if possible. Depending on your lens, you might be able to do it side by side in 2 lanes, but usually I like to have camera car, then 1-lane gap, and then the car that I'm shooting right over here. So those are a couple of tips for you and your drivers. Please remember, guys, I'm not responsible for your stupid decisions, so don't make any stupid decisions. You cannot edit if you're in jail or dead. So keep in mind, nothing is worth putting yourself in danger for. No photo, saving your camera, whatever it might be. If your lens hood falls off while you're shooting and it just disappears and dissipates into the ground, let it fall off. It's $20. It's not worth reaching down and hitting your hand on the ground at 60 miles an hour to maybe catch a $20 lens hood. So please do not make any stupid decisions or mistakes when trying this. Now, We're going to be talking about culling, sorting, and editing next week after I shoot some more rolling shots and we can go through everything in Photoshop. But pretty much you are going to apply lens corrections on import. You're going to flip any photos that you shot upside down. You're going to set the rejects using the X key, compare files by side by pressing C, select which files you want to edit by flagging, which is what we talked about in episode 1 of Shooting Cars, already 2 months ago now. And then you're going to edit your photos, make a preset, export, publish, and share. So that is rolling shots, as quick and easy as I can tell you, with all the tips being included. Again, if you have any questions, shoot me a message on Instagram at @acarphotographer. I'm always happy to help you. Make sure to subscribe for next week's episode, where I'm going to show you how to go through 200 rolling shots, the whole process of editing those, because you are going to have a ton of files and it's sometimes hard to pick between the best shots, and I'm going to show you my actual photos and my opinions so that we can take a look at those. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment down below. I will see you next Thursday at 9 a.m. for episode 9. I can't believe it's already been 2 months. Thanks so much for the support, and I will see you next week. Go shoot some rolling shots. Tag me on Instagram at @acarphotographer. See you later. Peace. Guy with a camera, how do you set up your camera for rollers? What's step 1?
You go to auto.
Okay. And then?
That's it. You just click. You make it roll.